All right, are you ready to ditch the studio and go for some truly epic landscapes?
I am so ready.
Today, we're going to do a deep dive into how to take incredible pictures in the Australian outback.
Awesome.
And we've got a stack of travel articles and photography guides to help us out. We'll uncover the best spots, the perfect times to visit, and some pro tips to step up your photography game.
Sounds good.
So first things first, why the outback for photography?
Well, the Outback is it's incredibly diverse. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
India, arid deserts, red rock canyons, these crazy unique rock formations, and even coastal beaches.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these pictures and oh my gosh,
Yeah, it's really something else.
it's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and for photographers, this means you can experiment with like a ton of different styles and techniques. There's really something for every skill level out there.
Totally. And speaking of variety, one of the guides was highlighting Kurrajini National Park in Western Australia.
Oh yeah, Karachini.
And the photos are unbelievable. It's like the sea of red with these deep gorges and cliffs carved out of the rock.
Yeah, it's seriously impressive. But you know what? That red dust, as beautiful as it is, it gets everywhere.
Oh, I bet.
Like absolutely everywhere. One article specifically mentions that photographers need to be prepared.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so think like sealed bags, lens cloths, maybe even a spare camera body if you're really serious about keeping your gear clean.
That's a good tip. I can only imagine that red dust would be a nightmare to clean out of a camera sensor.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, okay, we've got to talk about Uluru.
Of course, Uluru.
It's like the ultimate outback photo, right?
Absolutely. Uluru, also known as Eyre's Rock, is like a must-see for any photographer visiting the Outback, yeah, and capturing its changing colors at sunrise or sunset. Oh, it's like a dream shot for many, I can imagine. But it's really important to remember that Uluru holds deep cultural significance for the Inangu people, the traditional owners of the land.
My auntie is a brochure from Parks Australia that talks about some restrictions on taking pictures of certain sacred spots around Uluru.
Yeah, that's right. And drone photography, totally off limits. It's about respecting the cultural significance of the site and making sure that photography is done in a sensitive and ethical way.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense.
Sure.
All right, moving on to another stunning location, the Flinders Ranges in South Australia. This one really caught my eye because the guide mentioned that famous landscape painter Sir Hans Hyson was inspired by the scenery there back in the early 1900s.
That's so cool. It really shows you how the Outback has been captivating artists for generations. Yeah. I mean, Hyson saw beauty in those rolling hills and valleys, and you, as a photographer, you have that same opportunity. You can capture that same beauty through a different lens, you know? You get to see the world through new eyes to find your own unique perspective on this ancient land.
I've loved that. Okay, now I've always been drawn to mountain shots, and we've got some info here about Cradle Mountain in Tasmania.
Cradle Mountain.
I just got that classic image of Dove Lake with the mountain peaks in the background, and the plants and animals there are supposed to be super unique.
You know what stood out to me about Cradle Mountain?
Like that?
The turning of the Fagus. It happens in autumn. The deciduous beech trees, they turn these vibrant colors like gold and orange and red. Can you imagine capturing that against the dark greens of the forest and the craggy peaks of Cradle Mountain?
Wow.
Talk about a photographer's dream.
Yeah, it's officially on my bucket list.
Yeah.
And speaking of dramatic landscapes, Lake Eyre in South Australia sounds just incredible.
Oh, wait there. That's a place that truly showcases the extremes of the Outback.
Yeah.
It's a vast salt lake. And for years, it can be totally dried as shimmering white expanse under the scorching sun.
Wow.
And then every 8 to 10 years, it fills with water.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And when it does, it's like a complete transformation.
Yeah, totally.
The guide mentioned that it becomes a haven for birds and all sorts of wild.
Yeah.
And they say that the aerial photography opportunities are phenomenal, especially around the saltworks with all those colorful evaporation ponds.
It's crazy how you can go from the stark beauty of a dry salt lake to a vibrant oasis teeming with life all within a few years. It's like nature's constantly changing, and there's always something new to discover, new stories to tell through your photography.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered some pretty incredible spots already, but we're just getting started. I'm seeing info here about the MacDonnell Ranges in the Northern Territory.
Oh, yeah, the MacDonnell Ranges, another fantastic spot for photographers.
Cool.
One of the articles distinguishes between the West MacDonnell Ranges, which are closer to Alice Springs and have popular spots like Simpsons Gap and Ormiston Gorge, and then there are the East MacDonnell Ranges.
Okay, East Max versus West Max.
Exactly. The Eastmax are more remote, but they're just as stunning.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But tell me more about these East Max. What makes them so special for photographers?
Well, think dramatic mountains, deep gorges, and a real sense of wilderness.
Wow.
It's perfect for those who want to get off the beaten track and capture that raw, untamed beauty of the outback. And for those who love playing with light and shadow, there's Stanley Chasm, which is famous for its incredible light display at midday.
I'm sold. Now, I can't talk about the Outback without mentioning Kings Canyon, also in the Northern Territory.
Kings Canyon, oh, it's a must do for anyone visiting the Red Center. The Rim Walk offers breathtaking views, especially at sunset when the canyon walls just glow with that golden light.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a tip here that sunrise is actually the best time to get those shots.
Yeah.
At the start of the Rim Walk, with the Garden of Eden below.
Oh, yeah, talk about golden hour magic.
Amazing. Now, I know you're probably thinking, okay, these places sound incredible, but how do I even get there? One of the sources talks about the Gibb River Road in the Kimberley region of Western Australia.
The Gibb River Road. It's like a classic outback adventure.
Local?
It's almost 650 kilometers long, and it used to be a pretty rough 4WD track. Oh well. But it's become more accessible in recent years. Still, it's an incredible journey through some of the most remote and stunning landscapes in Australia.
650 kilometers, that's a serious road trip. So what kind of photo apps are we talking about along this road?
Oh, think spectacular gorges, waterfalls, and these unique boab trees that dot the landscape. I love boab trees. They're fascinating. You know, one of the articles even mentions that experts can't agree on where they came from.
Really?
Yeah, some think they might have been brought over by a human migration even before Australia's indigenous people arrived.
Wow, that's a mystery I'd love to see for myself.
And the article mentions ancient rock art too, some of it's thousands of years old, adding another layer of depth and cultural significance to the Kimberley.
It's incredible to think about those who came before us, leaving their mark on this land for us to discover.
Right. It's a reminder that when we're photographing in the outback, we're not just capturing landscapes, we're capturing stories, history, and the enduring spirit of this ancient land.
Beautifully said. Now, I know not everyone has a hardcore 4WD vehicle, but don't worry, there's still hope for capturing those epic outback shots.
That's right. One of the sources mentions that many of these remote locations are accessible with a semi-off-road caravan, or there are caravan-friendly campgrounds nearby. So you can still experience the beauty of the outback without needing a specialized vehicle.
Okay, that's good to know. Now let's talk about the best time to visit the outback for photography. I mean, it's known for its extreme heat, right?
Oh, absolutely. All of the sources emphasize that the cooler months from March to September are the best time to visit for photographers. Not only will you be more comfortable, but your camera gear will thank you too. That summer heat can really take a toll on electronics.
I can only imagine. So let's say we've got our trip planned for the cooler months, we're packing our bags. What kind of gear should we make sure we have?
Well, wide-angle lenses are a must for those expansive landscapes. You want to be able to fit the whole scene in, convey that sense of vastness and grandeur that the outback is known for.
Makes sense. Anything else?
A telephoto lens is crucial for wildlife photography. It lets you zoom in on those elusive creatures without disturbing them. And speaking of wildlife, the outback is home to some seriously unique animals. One of our sources gives us a whole rundown of the fascinating creatures you might encounter.
Okay, hit me with some highlights. What kind of critters are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there's the greater bilby.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's a bilby?
It's this vulnerable marsupial that looks like a rabbit with super long ears and a cute little snout. It's one of those animals that just begs to be photographed.
I bet. Okay, what else is on the list?
Then there's the Spinifex hopping mouse. As the name suggests, it hops around like a miniature kangaroo. They're so well adapted to the desert, and their movements are mesmerizing to watch.
Okay, that's adorable. How are you picturing a slow motion shot of that little guy bounding across the red sand?
Oh, yeah. And of course, you can't forget the dingo.
Yes, the iconic dingo.
Right. They've got a bit of a mixed reputation, though. One of the articles talks about how they're seen as both a beloved icon and a potential threat to livestock.
Yeah, I've heard that.
It's a good reminder that as photographers, we have a responsibility to present a balanced view of the animals we photograph. Show their beauty, their place in the ecosystem, but also acknowledge those complexities, their relationship with humans.
I agree. Okay, so we've got bilbies, hopping mice, and dingoes. What other cool creatures might we come across?
Oh, there are so many. How about the pink cockatoo?
Oh, yeah, those are beautiful.
You know, right? Those vibrant pink and white feathers. And they're incredibly intelligent and social too.
I
Like,
can imagine.
imagine capturing them interacting or maybe even solving a puzzle to get some food.
That would be an amazing shot.
I know, right? It's all about thinking outside the box and finding ways to capture the unique personality of each animal you photograph.
Absolutely. Okay, so pig cockatoos are definitely on the list. Any other must-see creatures?
Ooh, have you heard of the thorny devil?
The thorny devil. The name alone sounds intimidating.
I know, but they're actually quite small, and they look like something out of a fantasy novel.
Okay, I'm picturing a dragon or something.
Kind of. Imagine a tiny lizard covered in spikes with this false head it uses to scare off predators.
Whoa, that's crazy.
And the best part, it can change color to blend in with the desert.
Wait, it changes color. Like a chameleon.
Exactly. Plus, it can absorb water through its skin.
No way. That's a shot I need to get.
Right. It's amazing how these creatures have adapted to survive in such a harsh environment. As photographers, we get to try and capture those adaptations on camera.
That's so true. Okay, so we've got this incredible list of wildlife to look out for. Where are not tips for actually photographing them? They're not exactly going to line up and pose for us, right?
Well, one of the most important things is patience. Wildlife photography is all about observation, waiting for the right moment, and anticipating the animal's behavior.
So patience is key. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Light is crucial, just like with landscape photography. The golden hours, after sunrise and before sunset, they're ideal. The soft light creates a beautiful atmosphere and really highlights the details in the animal's fur or feathers.
Right, and I imagine the animals are more active during those cooler times of day, too.
Exactly. It's always best to consider the animal's perspective. Try to photograph them when they're most likely to be out and about.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got some good tips for approaching wildlife photography in the outback. Now, I know a lot of photographers are drawn to those iconic outback birds like the pink cockatoo we mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah, they're stunning. And one of the sources mentioned that they're incredibly intelligent and social creatures, which can make for some interesting photo opportunities.
I can imagine capturing them interacting with each other, or maybe even solving a puzzle to get some food.
Exactly. It's all about thinking creatively and finding ways to capture the unique personality of each animal you photograph.
Speaking of unique personalities, I'm reading here about the New Haven Sanctuary, which apparently has over 170 different bird species.
Wow, that's incredible. A birdwatcher's paradise.
It sounds like a dream location for photographers, but also a bit overwhelming. How do you even begin to photograph so many different species?
Well, one of the guides suggests focusing on specific habitats within sanctuary. Instead of trying to photograph every bird you see, you could target specific areas like wetlands or woodlands and focus on the birds that are most likely to be found there.
That's a great idea. Focus your efforts and make the most of your time.
Exactly. And don't forget to be patient and observant. Take your time, watch the birds, and wait for those special moments.
Okay, that's great advice. I'm starting to feel like I could actually capture some amazing bird photos in the outback.
You absolutely can. With a bit of knowledge, preparation, and a whole lot of passion, you can create some truly stunning images that showcase the beauty and diversity of outback wildlife.
Well said. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about the technical side of photography, but let's not forget about the importance of storytelling.
Oh, absolutely. Photography is about more than just capturing a pretty picture. It's about conveying emotions, sharing stories, and connecting with your audience.
Right, and in the outback, the stories are everywhere. It's a land of ancient history, rugged beauty, and resilient wildlife.
One of the articles talks about how the outback can evoke this sense of awe and wonder, a feeling of being connected to something much larger than ourselves.
I could definitely relate to that. And as photographers, we have the privilege of sharing those feelings through our images.
Exactly. It's about capturing the spirit of the outback, the essence of what makes this land so special.
Okay, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to remind everyone that the outback is not just a photographer's playground. It's a living, breathing ecosystem, for sure. And it's important to respect the land and its inhabitants.
Absolutely. One of the guides emphasizes the importance of minimizing our impact on the environment.
Right, so pack out everything you pack in, stay on designated trails, and be mindful of your surroundings.
And always remember that the outback is a land of extremes. The weather can change quickly, the terrain can be challenging, and wildlife encounters can be unpredictable.
So be prepared, be respectful, and most importantly, be open to the unexpected.
Well said. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our Outback photography deep dive, but we've only just scratched the surface. Stay tuned for part two, where we'll delve deeper into specific techniques, share more insider tips, and get you even more excited to capture your own epic Outback adventures.